Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I have a kind of a special episode for you today. So, I wanted to highlight a bunch of the recent horrific arrests that have been made by Donald Trump's Gestapo. So, this first woman that you're going to see here is an American citizen, and she was violently arrested on the streets of Los Angeles simply because of the color of her skin. So, take a look at this. I'm going to bring up this video for you.
Have a couple bruises in my body. One of them pushed me into the ground.
Andrea Velez is referring to this chaotic moment in downtown LA Tuesday morning. The 32-year-old U.S. citizen from South LA had just been dropped off for work by her family near 9th and Spring Street when ICE agents rushed her, forced her to the pavement, and put her in handcuffs.
I was just going to work. It was just a day of work. And everything happened so fast. So yeah, and they didn't identify themselves, so I was kind of scared.
Then she was hauled away. For 24 hours, her family couldn't find her. With the help of her family, community advocates, and lawyers, she was released late Thursday.
They're alleging that Ms. Velez assaulted an ICE officer. Now imagine this. You're at a scene, you're just dropped off from work, you're walking along on the curb, on the sidewalk, and a man, a grown adult, 200-pound, 6-foot man in full armor, weapons, with his face shielded, starts charging at you. And that's what she experienced. Now ask yourself, who committed the assault here?
Velez says she screamed and feared for her life when she was suddenly grabbed.
So, yeah, I mean, this is the game that they're playing, right? A masked man or group of men with no warrant, no identification on them, nothing showing on their clothing anywhere, even in unmarked cars. They grab a woman of color on the street. And then when that woman fights back, when she tries to get away, which any woman would, they go, oh, well, she assaulted an officer, or, she was resisting arrest. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I'm going to assault that man or men, and I'm going to resist arrest. You don't know who this is. You don't know you're under arrest. You don't know if they're even telling you the truth, even if they say you're under arrest. This is every woman's worst nightmare come true. As women, any women watching can verify this. We are always told, don't let them take you to a second location. If they can take you to a second location, you're dead. You're dead. They're going to kill you, and you'll be left for dead. We are taught that from a very young age. We are taught to fight. We are taught to run, scream, do whatever we can, because it could end in our death. And let's be real. This is anyone's natural instinct. When a estranged masked man or men try to grab you, whether you're a man or a woman, this is your natural instinct. But this is how they rack up charges against innocent people. And as you saw in that video, even an American citizen. And then MAGA morons go, well, why did they run? Why did they assault the officer? Wait until there's a story about a fake ICE agent and they grab a female Trump supporter and something horrific happens to her. That is the only way that this is going to stop. Only then will they call for reform and to stop with these extrajudicial arrests. So anyway, next up, I have the story of an Australian woman. She is newly married as of, I think it was the end of last year. She's married to a member of the U.S. military. So take a look at her story and how just absolutely insane this was. Get this set up for you guys.
It's his third visit to see her husband, Matt, a U.S. Army lieutenant stationed on Oahu. The newlyweds married last December, but this time, U.S. border officials at Honolulu Airport flagged her for additional screening. Sirocco said they were taken to a holding room, their bags and phones were searched, and they were asked a slew of questions. Everything from her work as a former police officer to whether her tattoos were gang-related.
When I did say that I was married to somebody in the US Army, the officers laughed at me. They kept telling me that I had too many clothes in my suitcase. So because of that, they assumed that I was going to overstay my visa.
Sirocco's was subject to more screening. Her fingerprints and a DNA swab of her mouth were taken. Sirocco said officials conducted a body cavity search, walked her through the airport in handcuffs, and drove her to the federal detention center. At the prison, Sirocco's was strip searched and detained with women who had been convicted of murder and drug offenses. At no point was she allowed to call her husband or mother.
It's made it physically impossible for me to even ever enter the United States ever again.
What does that mean for your marriage?
I felt like my marriage was over when they told me that. And that's something that they've taken away from me as well.
So, yeah, I mean, this almost destroyed her marriage. I should mention they said they were taken into a holding facility or a holding room. The they that they were referring to was her and her mother. So she and her mother had traveled to Hawaii. I guess it's where her mother had her honeymoon. So it was like a special place for her. And so her mother traveled there with her. The plan was for her, the newlywed, to meet up with her husband and then for them to spend some time together. Well, they took her into custody and let her mother go for some reason. And then they're like, oh, well, we're not pressing any charges and you're not actually in trouble. And she was like, what the hell is going on then? Why are you even holding me? I mean, to have a strip search, a cavity search, and you've done nothing wrong. I mean, is it any wonder why no one wants to come to the U.S. anymore? And I've shared in other videos that travel and tourism to the U.S. has completely fell off a cliff. It dropped off a cliff this year. And every time they interview and speak with a foreigner, the media reports it's always because of Donald Trump's policies. 100% unequivocally across the board, it is because Donald Trump and his policies. No one wants to spend thousands of dollars to take off time from work and then come over to the U.S. and then be thrown in a U.S. gulag for days or even sometimes weeks on end. And as I mentioned in a recent video, Trump voters are completely clueless about all of this. There were 2 Trump focus groups that were done recently. And they asked them about this, why is travel? Why do you think travel? They give them these questions to see what their answers are going to be. Of course, the moderator knows the answer, but they're like, oh yeah, why do you think that travel has gone down since Donald Trump became the president? They had every excuse in the book, did not blame Donald Trump once, not any of them, in 2 different focus groups. They had not even a hint of what was going on. They had no idea why U.S. travel has plummeted. They seriously do not know what is going on in their own country. It's absolutely bizarre. Next, I have a story of 2 teenage kids for you. These are kids from California. They have been left without parents because Trump's Gestapo took both of them. And you're not going to believe what they did to the kids. So check this out.
Heavily armed federal agents delivering an early morning wake-up call to Kevin Robles and his little sister Raquel. The agents were executing a sealed warrant for the arrest of their father, Arnoldo Robles, on one charge of being a deported alien in the U.S. They sent a drone inside and used flashbangs before entering the home themselves.
It was It was scary imagining just opening the door and getting received by like 20 lasers pointed at you and all these rifles.
They ultimately led Robles, his wife Angelica Ortega, and their 2 teenagers out of the home, one by one, in handcuffs.
My cuffs were tied to the mags, and I was telling them if they can loosen them, and they're just foul language, like saying, "Oh, stop being a you can handle this."
Court records show Arnoldo Robles was convicted of a DUI in 2023 and was on probation. Raquel wanted to share her story, but could only say a few words. Robles remains in federal custody, and Ortega is now in deportation proceedings. Kevin says his mom hasn't gotten the medical care she needs while detained, and he hasn't been able to reach his dad.
So this was all over a DUI. This was because their father had a DUI a couple of years ago, got in trouble for it. I think he even spent some time in jail. And because of that, they had dozens of officers and ICE agents on site for an early morning raid, as if this guy was so dangerous, smashed in the windows, cuffed the kids, as you saw. And for people, anybody that's listening on a podcast, his wrists were cuffed so tight that he had marks on his wrists, like it dug into his wrists, and they're calling him names. He rightfully, this poor kid complains about it. And these guys who are so chicken shit, they're, too chicken shit to show their faces. And then they're telling a teenage kid, "Oh, toughen up," calling him names. Just unbelievable what is going on in this country. This next story I have to share is just as insane and dystopian. So this is about I believe she's in her 60s. It's an Iranian woman. And I apologize to her if I'm getting that wrong. She's either in her 50s or her 60s. She has been in the US for decades. Came here as a child from Iran, and she was outside gardening when ICE agents roll up. They ask her name. Next thing you know, they cuff her and take her without telling her family, which they were inside the house. They were just feet away. And no, they don't have time for that. So they just take her and take off. The only reason that they knew what happened was because the neighbor just so happened to see all of this go down. And he went and told his wife, and then the wife and the husband went over and talked to her husband and her daughter. So you're going to hear the husband mention their names at the beginning here. I wanted you to understand the backstory and who he was referring to. So take a look at this one. Again, just surreal.
Happened for Chris and Sarah on Sunday at 10 o'clock. We would have never known she was taken.
Mandana Kashanian's family told our Rob Masson she was gardening outside her Lakeview home around 10 Sunday morning when 3 unmarked cars pulled up. Her neighbors say the agents asked her name, then quickly detained her and drove off, all while her husband Russell Milne and daughter Caitlin were inside. Both are U.S. citizens.
They turned around, handcuffed her right away, whisked her off into unmarked trucks.
Her family says she does not have a criminal record and is compliant with immigration rules. Kashanian first came to the United States in the late 1970s on a student visa. When it expired 20 years later, she was granted a stay of deportation, allowing her to remain in the U.S. under supervision. Her husband of 35 years says she has not once missed an immigration appointment.
Like I said, she's our support system, so sorry. The first thing she said on the phone was, make sure the homeowner's insurance is paid, which stressed me out. Sorry.
I feel so bad for these people. I mean, it did come out today. It was literally just reported today that she has been released. She is back home with her family. But imagine this. Imagine having your wife or your mother just kidnapped by masked men driving down the street in unmarked cars. And for absolutely no reason. This woman does not have any kind of criminal record. And, as you heard there, as with the military member, her husband is a U.S. citizen. I mean, this is what our tax dollars are being wasted on right now. They're claiming, too expensive to provide free healthcare or free education for American citizens. We don't have the money for that, right? They're stripping benefits as we speak away from American citizens who are barely getting by and need assistance to feed themselves and their kids. And yet they have the money for this shit. They have the money to go arrest a middle-aged woman who is doing nothing wrong, has not hurt anyone, has committed no crime, because she's Iranian and because our, I won't even call him our president, because our apricot antichrist in the White House went and bombed that country. Because of him, she gets taken. I mean, imagine the panic from her family members. Were these really ICE agents? Are these really officials? And where did they take her? They didn't even know that. Because again, they didn't know that she was gone. Had the neighbor not seen it, they would have thought that she was kidnapped by a murderer. I mean, so terrifying. And then on top of that, they were talking, which I didn't include in this segment, but they were talking about how they had to go try and find an attorney to help them. So they're out money on top of the frustration, on top of the fear, the anger. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. And then they were saying too, the husband mentioned he had a hard time finding an attorney who wasn't completely overbooked, because this is happening so much that every immigration attorney is completely inundated and they don't have time to take on new cases. That's what's happening. The only industry that Donald Trump is helping right now is attorneys. He said wants to bring manufacturing back, shuts down programs that help with manufacturing, gets rid of Biden's Build Back Better plan, which helped to increase manufacturing, which helped to, spur it on and encourage businesses. Took that away, put nothing in the new bill that will help with that. But he's helping attorneys, sure is helping to make attorneys great again. Next up, I have a story of another military member. His wife was also arrested by ICE for absolutely no reason, and they have a newborn baby that she was breastfeeding when they took her. So check this one out. Again, just absolutely insane.
Veteran Adrian Cluot didn't expect to be caring for his two young children all on his own.
My son misses his mom a lot. It's actually gotten worse in the past couple of days. He's constantly asking me for her and just having little breakdowns.
After immigration authorities detained his wife Paula at a green card interview in New Orleans.
I was devastated. I was angry, upset.
The couple shares a 2-year-old son and a 3-month-old daughter.
We switched to the formula. She does get to breastfeed twice a week when I go to visit my wife.
Cluot says his wife came to the U.S. from Mexico as a teenager with her now estranged mother. He says she was detained because of a deportation order issued in 2018.
My wife was living in a homeless shelter in Indio, California, when this all went down. Her mom skipped the appointment. The judge, by default, issued a removal order for my wife, her mother, and her brother. She was never notified of it. She had no way of knowing.
The Department of Homeland Security telling NBC News in part, Paula Cluot is in the country illegally. President Trump and Secretary Noem are not going to ignore the rule of law.
Yeah. Trump and puppy killer Kristi Noem. Yeah, they're so good at holding up the rule of law, aren't they? They're not going to ignore the rule of law, guys, unless it benefits them, unless they feel like it, unless it's to push their racist agenda. Then they have absolutely no problem ignoring the rule of law and ignoring court orders. Think about what an absurd statement that is. We have a president who was just convicted of 34 felonies last year. That's who our president is. He was found liable of sexual assault, which the judge said, actually, by definition, it was rape. But, the reason that we can't call it that and the reason the jury couldn't find him liable of rape is because the incident happened in New York. And under New York law, you can't, if anything is used other than a man's member, it cannot be legally called rape. It's sexual assault. So, but there was actual, according to them, penetration. So in other jurisdictions, that's what it would be. And that's who our president is. And this is the person who's, well, I'm not going to ignore the rule of law. Really? Really? And this poor family is being torn apart. Her baby, her toddler, they do not have their mother with them. All because her unfit mother, who she is, as you heard, now estranged from, ignored an order to appear in court when she was a teenager. How is she being held accountable for something that her mother did when she was a child? This is obscene. This next story is about a man who has been in the U.S. since 1980. Since 1980, you guys. He has been here longer than he was in his home country. Take a look at this one. Hate to be redundant, but it's just insane.
Came to the U.S. in 1980. By now, Noah Castaneda has spent more of his life in Colorado than he has in Cuba. Grandchildren say Noah Castaneda did receive a deportation order when he entered the U.S., but they claim a judge dismissed that case in the 90s. And his lawyer at the time told him that he wouldn't be at risk of deportation in the future.
And all his lawyer had told him that he would be fine, that to not worry about a citizenship, to just work with his work permit here.
Noah Castaneda does have 2 charges that were closed for shoplifting in 1995 and public consumption of alcohol in the 1990s. But his family says those incidents are not a fair representation of his 47 years building a life here.
Again, with our criminal in the White House, with the criminal of the United States in charge, the CODIS, and they're going to throw this guy out after he has been here for decades for shoplifting in the 1990s, for drinking in public. Are you kidding me? And yet we have Pete Hegseth, or Pete Kegsbreath, as people call him, running our national defense. Are you serious? Who is this man hurting? He is not committing any crimes now, right? These were decades ago when he was a young man, and stupid misdemeanors. He is now elderly. He's not taking away anyone's job because he's not working anymore. Why is this man a priority other than racism? Other than Donald Trump putting on a show and trying to cover up for the fact that he has not helped with the economy, that he has not done anything about inflation, that he is now completely betraying his base with bombing Iran, with, pretending that the Epstein incident didn't actually happen. Nothing to see here. Move along. So that's what this is all about. This is not about getting out dangerous people. This is smoke and mirrors. This next story, this is of another family that they are being torn apart. Another child being left fatherless. A little bit different situation here. This is the reverse. With the wife is an American citizen. The husband is not. So take a look at this one.
Daughter, like she can't even see her dad anymore. Like, what does that mean for us?
27-year-old Alexandria Dowell learning just moments before her husband, 34-year-old Ariel Cruz Penton, is set to be deported.
What am I going to do? That's my husband. But I can't do anything, and I have to be strong for my daughter.
It's a strength she's carried since June 10th. Federal agents detained Penton while working.
My husband came to the U.S. about 7 years ago. When he came to the border, he presented himself and pleaded political asylum.
Penton's attorney says back then federal agents coerced the Cuban immigrant into signing documents that he didn't know would end his right to humanitarian parole. That parole gives temporary permission to stay in the U.S., which is required under the Cuban Adjustment Act. Penton's attorney claims under this act he would have eventually been granted residency. Instead, he received a deportation order. Dowell says they've been actively fighting to reopen that case and get him a green card. They also filed for citizenship through their marriage nearly a year and a half ago.
My husband has no criminal record. He works really hard. We pay our taxes. We also own a home, and we're a family. We're married. I'm U.S. born. My daughter's U.S. born. So we have everything, on paper that should help us through this process. And yet the system, has failed us. They said he'll be out of the U.S. within today or tomorrow. And I'm like, well, where? He's a political refugee. You just can't take him. He's waiting for his credible fear interview.
ICE has been unable to tell her where he is or what's next. We asked ICE the same questions and we're told they need more time.
And now I'm like, I just wish that I could, see him again.
Dell hopes her story will show others the reality of families like hers who are being ripped apart.
And it feels like no one's safe at this point, and that's the scary part.
Yeah, she's right. No one is safe at this point. So much for the party of family values. Huh? I mean, they claim they want to let's get back to traditional families and a mother and a father and, have the wife be able to stay home and raise the kids. And then they deport a man who is providing for his family and hasn't committed any crimes. Outside of coming into the country, seeking asylum, didn't just sneak across the border, presented himself at the border and said, I'm seeking refuge because I'm in danger in my country. Seeking a better life, marries a woman, has a child, is working hard, as you heard, paying his taxes, and then they're kicking him out. And now her daughter is now at risk. I mean, with this whole thing, with what Trump just signed and the freaking right-wing total psychos, the majority on the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court, which I call the SCROTUS, they go along with this whole idea of getting rid of birthright citizenship, which is in our Constitution. So now her child is at risk. The hypocrisy would be comical if these situations weren't so tragic. So this next video is about another young mother and a baby. They will be on their own thanks to Donald Trump and his Gestapo. And here's what she had to say. So take a look at this next one.
My boyfriend on the ground already, and they had tackled my cousin down, and that's when I was inside the car and I was kind of just banging on the door because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you guys treating us like that? They didn't do anything wrong.
The agents, she says, telling her she was going to have her baby while in detention, assuming she was undocumented, asking her if she was from Mexico.
But you're from Mexico, right? And I'm like, no, I'm from here, and like I was born here. Here, where's here? What are you talking about? Where exactly is here? I'm like, here, the U.S., Los Angeles. They put us in chains. So I had a chain from my hand and under my belly that went all the way to my legs.
Agents eventually releasing Carrie after she said she started feeling pain around her belly. She raced to the hospital where she started having contractions, she believes, from the stress of what happened. 4 days later, she delivered a healthy baby girl. Her boyfriend, the baby's father, is Brian Alexander Barrera, undocumented from Guatemala. Carrie says he is now being held at a detention facility in Texas.
He didn't have any criminal records or anything. Knowing that they took him when he was working, it kind of hurt because I was like, he didn't do anything wrong. He was just working and taking care of his family. Why are you treating other people the way that you treat a criminal when they're not criminals? They're human beings. Like, the color doesn't matter. Like, race doesn't matter. At the end, we're all human.
It's sick. It is absolutely sick. So they've left now a 23-year-old woman and her baby all alone to fend for themselves. And then if she goes and she asks for assistance, now that she's a single mother of no fault of her own, they're going to talk shit about her. They're going to call her a welfare queen. They're going to try to take away any and all help for BS reasons. I mean, the MAGA Republican Party is absolute trash and pure evil. And, did you guys catch that in the beginning where they're, you're going to have your baby in lockup? They're taunting these people. They're enjoying this. These ICE agents are sick. They're sick SOBs. This is why they choose to do what they do. So why? Why do they have to wear masks? If they are so proud of themselves, they love what they're doing. They just think that they can treat Black and brown people like they're not human. Why? Just take off your masks. Take off your masks. Freaking cowards. Show your faces if you're so proud of what you're doing. And if you can't take off your mask, then go get a different job. If you know what you're doing is wrong, go get a different job. Anyway, this next story, this is a similar story, but it's a couple is older. But again, 2 children in the mix, 2 children and a mother now left without the kids without their father, this woman without her fiance, and one of the children has special needs. So this is even worse and makes it so much harder on her, makes it so much harder on the child. I mean, it's just sickening. So let me show you this one.
Leticia Ortiz Lopez has a fiance. She's been raising her kids as a single mom for the past 2 months. Claudio Herrera, the father of her children, is currently detained by Immigration's Customs Enforcement.
He was on his way to work when he got surrounded by 10 ICE agents and he was taken.
A green card holder, Herrera, born in Mexico, has been in the United States for decades, moving with his parents as a kid. She says the only thing she can think of as to why this happened is an arrest from 20 years ago when he was a minor living in Delaware. Within the past 20 years, Herrera has renewed his green card, has had a steady job. Together, they have a 2-year-old daughter and a 5-year-old son with autism.
Then on top of that, my son having to process, why is his father not here? Why is he not here? And why is he not coming home?
Just cruel, just absolute abject cruelty. It's just complete and utter insanity what is going on. Now this woman is going to have to seek assistance, like I said about the other one, right? So she can either stay home because she has an autistic child that needs round-the-clock care, or she can go to work and leave him with a complete stranger who might hurt him or do something to him. And that costs money. That costs a lot of money. So how exactly are we saving our country money? How are we making America great again? This makes absolutely no sense. And you are traumatizing so many children that are going to grow up with all kinds of issues because their fathers weren't in their lives, their mothers weren't in their lives. I mean, it's like I said, the level of cruelty is just off the charts. Next up, I have a story to show you. This is a bit different. So, this woman is now left without the father of her children, but he actually supported Donald Trump. So, he's not an American citizen, obviously, because he's been taken away, but he supported Donald Trump and what Donald Trump wanted to do, as did the rest of her family. So, take a look at this one. I mean, talk about betrayal.
Conde says she came here from Cuba on humanitarian parole in 2023. Her husband, Ariel Lara, crossed the border with Mexico twice. 6 weeks ago, he was taken into custody at his residency hearing.
What did you think was going to happen when Trump won? You're saying you believed the president when he said he was going to deport criminals.
Now, Elena is left behind with her daughter, 7-month-old son, and Ariel's 70-year-old grandmother.
Your whole family voted for Trump. ¿Lo apoyaba a Trump durante su campaña? Did you support him?
Yo estoy fuera.
You're outside of it. You can't vote. Pero te sientes decepcionada? Do you feel disappointed, deceived, engañada?
Me siento mal porque sé que ellos creían en él.
You feel bad because the rest of them believed in him.
I mean, imagine, as she said, she couldn't vote for Trump, but the rest of her U.S. citizen relatives did. This Trump presidency is going to tear families apart in a multitude of ways. Like, how do you ever forgive your family for voting to take away the person you love, the father of your children? I couldn't do it. I absolutely would not happen. Next video is pretty unique. At least I hope it is. So check this out. This was a U.S. born man who was basically disappeared by ICE. I don't know if you guys saw this. It went kind of viral, but basically disappeared by Donald Trump's administration. And you're not going to believe why, or actually you probably will believe why. So let me set this one up for you.
Driving, and I noticed a cop bang a U-turn hard. Turned her blues on, came flying up behind me. She tells me why she pulled me over. It was because of inspection sticker, not a big deal, really. Asked for my ID, give her my ID, and then she comes back over after 4 or 5 minutes, and she's like, do you have an ID in any other states? And I was like, yeah, here's the other states I've had IDs in. She ends up coming back a few minutes later, and she's like, okay, can I get your social security number? I was like, that's a first. I've never had them ask for my social security number at any traffic stop ever. So I'm like, okay, here's the social security number. Then 5 minutes later again, she comes back. She's like, yeah, so I'm not pulling you up in any of our systems in any state you said you had a license in. She's like, I had to call my sergeant. The sergeant ends up coming up. He asked me to step out of the car, but essentially plays back everything. And he's like, is this a real license? I was like, yeah, it's a real license. He's like, so there's no security codes or holographics or anything? I was like, I don't know. That's just the ID they give me. He's like, hold on then. So then they have me stand at the back of the cruiser. I don't know, 20 minutes later, he comes back over. He's like, I got it all squared away. You're all set. I was like, no, hold on. You just basically told me I might be getting arrested, that you guys think I have a fake ID. And I was like, basically, you guys told me you have no idea who I am or what I am, yet I gave you my license. What is happening? And then you asked for my social security number. That's never happened before. He's like, well, in all honesty, you can thank ICE for this one. I was like, what? He's like, your name. I was like, so because I have a Hispanic last name, I'm flagged in ICE? He's like, well, you're not just flagged, you're kind of removed from everything. So I almost got arrested because of a system with ICE flagging a U.S.-born citizen who spent my entire life in this country since the day I was born. 2 generations of my family have been born in the United States, and yet I got flagged. Now I'm flagged, and he's like, yeah, this might keep happening to you now. Cool. very awesome. So my little fun story of the day is I've been profiled, and yeah, good times. Stay icy.
Yeah. And that was just a short version, believe it or not, of his video. It went on longer than that. I cut a bunch of stuff out, but because this guy has a Hispanic last name, he was stripped from all databases in the US. Consider the implications of that. If they didn't get that resolved, this guy couldn't ever vote again. He wouldn't be eligible to receive a renewed driver's license, which means he wouldn't be able to legally drive, right? How do you get to and from work? How do you get anywhere? Couldn't buy a home, couldn't apply for any credit of any kind. He would never be able to leave the country. He wouldn't even be able to take a flight within the US, an intercontinental flight. I mean, they are playing with people's lives and their futures, and the MAGA Republicans in Congress do not give a damn. They refuse to stop this insanity. And all of this is costing the United States money. It's costing small businesses, which are not going to be able to hold on for too long. Here is what a small Florida coffee shop owner had to say. He didn't want to give his name. He didn't want to give the name of his business, but he's saying that his business is tanking because of Donald Trump's deportation policies. So check this one out. And this is not the only one.
Venezuelan business owner who asked us not to use his name to protect his business and fellow owners said the political instability has led to a 20% drop in revenue.
It's affected your clients as well as the people who work here. A lot of people have already invested in businesses here and they've stopped because they just don't know what the future brings.
So yeah, I mean, not only are the existing businesses not doing well, some closing their doors, may not be able to hold on much longer, but other businesses don't want to start. They don't want to begin a business in the United States because of all this craziness, because of the tariffs, because of the deportations. I mean, Donald Trump is doing the complete opposite of what he claims he wants to do, what he claims his goal is. And he's so full of himself, he's so egotistical, and he's so immature and insecure that he can't see it or refuses to see it and admit it and change course. Like I said, this is far from the only small business that's suffering because of his asinine and cruel policies. And it's not just businesses. This is also going to start costing consumers money, which is what I want to share next. So take a look at this clip. This is, something that we're going to see happening more and more if something doesn't change very quickly.
Is known as the strawberry growing capital of the country. And if these empty fields behind me tell any story, it's that scattered ice raids are planting deep-rooted fear in the immigrants that tend to them.
Gonzalo says there's usually 20 in their crew, and only 7 showed up.
The fields are empty. A lot of people didn't go to work at the factories. The Home Depots were empty since Monday morning when we had our teams out there surveilling. They said, hey, this is something we've never seen. We've never seen the Home Depot parking lot this empty with this few day laborers, right? So it's something that not only affects us in the moment of the actual deportation, but it affects the entire community.
So, throughout the country, we have crops that are wasting away in the fields, on the trees, on the vine. And as you guys all know, I mean, this is simple supply and demand, right? I mean, when the store shelves are empty and demand starts to exceed the supply that we have of fruits and vegetables, prices are going to skyrocket. And as we all know, prices are, once they go up, they don't come down. Unless the country falls into a full-blown recession, things don't come down. And now Trump is saying he's planning to enact some sort of work permit program for farm workers, which, add this to the list, is just going to piss off his racist base. It is going to be like an explosion going off. I mean, on top of everything else, he's going to go renege on this. But, like I said before, even Donald Trump, before he took office, I said this. I said he will always do what's in the best interest of his big money donors at the expense of his base and his campaign promises. If his policies conflict with what his oligarch donors want and need, he's going to cave. Even if it's at odds with his base, because Donald Trump knows he can easily soothe the beastly base, right? Look at what he's doing with Epstein. I mean, you have Charlie Kirk and so many of these MAGA influencers out there now. Oh, I'm just going to trust Donald Trump. And I know that I talked about this ad nauseum for decades. And called Joe Biden a pedophile and Bill Clinton and, said that we have to get these files and blah, blah, blah. And they're covering it up and we got to get to the truth. And these, pedophile Democrats. But, now that Donald Trump says, nope, sorry, we didn't find anything. This was all lie. Move along. They go along with it. They do whatever he tells them to. The cult leader makes the call and the cult members cave. They bend the knee, they kiss his feet, and they move on. So he knows that's all he has to do. He just has to give them the directive, right? And he doesn't care. They're not giving him the money that the oligarchs are. So even if they are pissed, what does he care? He got elected. He's probably not going to make it, through his full term based on his age and his health and, his dad's dementia or whatever it was, Alzheimer's, I don't know. So what does he care? And I think there's another reason that Donald Trump is giving in on this whole, work permit thing. These detainments and these deportations have been so out of control that even 6 Republican state lawmakers wrote to Trump and they asked him to focus on criminals only. So they sent this letter and told Trump, quote, "Unfortunately, the recent ICE workplace raids on farms, at construction sites, and in restaurants and hotels have led to unintended consequences that are harming communities we represent and the businesses that employ our constituents. We have heard from employers in our districts that recent ICE raids are not only targeting undocumented workers, but also creating widespread fear among other employees, including those with legal immigration status. This fear is driving vital workers out of critical industries, taking California's affordability crisis and making it even worse for our constituents." And then they also asked Trump if he would create a pathway to legal status for these workers. I think that's a bridge too far for Trump's base. They would definitely, have an uprising. There would be mutiny. Again, though, I think he could soothe most of them and be like, oh, no, this is what we got to do to make America great again. It's like the perfect thing. You're going to love it. And they're just going to do it. So anyway, the letter said, quote, "America needs a system that reflects both compassion and lawfulness, one that upholds sovereignty while recognizing the reality on the ground. The last president to successfully tackle this issue was Ronald Reagan nearly 40 years ago, and it is long past time to modernize our immigration policies." And check this out. Not only are the crops going to waste, food that could feed hungry children in this country and around the world, but no Americans are willing to take these jobs. MAGA bitches and moans endlessly about immigrants taking jobs away from Americans, but American citizens are refusing these jobs. The Washington Post recently published an article, this was a couple weeks back, and they profiled farmers who had signed up for government subsidy programs. They're now getting screwed, as we all know, because of the Doge cuts. Well, a Colorado farmer named JJ, he ran into a couple problems. So the immigration laws are just adding to everything. But JJ planned to bring in a seasonal worker from Guatemala. He was bringing him in under the H-2A visa program. It got held up because of Trump, because of his administration, their immigration changes. And JJ got hit by their crap with, funding, with pulling funding for contracts, freezing payments, and so forth. So JJ was really in a bind on multiple fronts. And he's freaking out about this stalled funding. And then his only worker, his only employee quit in the middle of all this. Guy got a better job. So JJ runs local ads and tries to get an American citizen to take these jobs, or to take a job with him, because that's what's required with this H-2A visa. He told the news outlet no citizens applied. No U.S. citizens were willing to take it. And then the Washington Post also spoke with a Wisconsin farmer, guy named Tracy Vins. This person had a similar story. Vins told the Washington Post, quote, "I've employed Americans and they quit after a few days. They quit after a few hours." Yeah. There's also a Georgia farmer named Mitch Lawson. He told the news outlet, quote, "I've had a couple who didn't even last a whole day." But yeah, tell me again, MAGA. Tell me that fairy tale. I love that story. tell me a fairy tale about how they're the Mexicans, the black and brown people are stealing Americans' jobs. Yeah. Anyway, Trump is screwing up this country. He's screwing it up so bad, I don't know if we're ever going to be able to fix it. I mean, we saw what just happened in Texas. You cannot tell me that that had nothing to do with the Doge cuts and with losing some of the most experienced government employees and meteorologists. So we're screwed. Yay. Anyway, we'll see what happens in the midterms if we still have them. All right, guys. I will let you know when I hear more. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, please share, and subscribe to the channel if you have not. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.